I think a lot of people remember the 2021 Georgia National Championship. It was highlighted by Keely Ringo's run to the end zone, Georgia defeating Alabama to win its first national championship in 40 years. It was a Georgia team that beat every team it played, most of them by a ton of points, including a double-digit win over Alabama in the national championship game, a smothering of Michigan in the Orange Bowl, and a slew of other wins over big teams in that time. If I told you that was not one of the top 25 teams in college football over the last 25 years, you would slap me in my face, or you'd try real hard. But The Athletic seems to think that it's not. And this is from Stuart Mandel over at The Athletic. Bro, I don't know what you're talking about or thinking, my friend. To not have that Georgia team in your top 25, you've got teams in here that didn't win the national championship, which, I don't have a problem with. I mean, you look at USC 2005, USC team, number 13. I mean, okay. But to not have Georgia's national championship team in 2021 and have Ohio State's national championship team, which was a good national championship team, you got them at number 24. They were beaten by 14 points on their home field by Virginia Tech, a Virginia Tech team that finished 7-6. Let's talk about Auburn in 2010. They had 7 wins by a score or fewer. They won their national championship by a last-second field goal. They beat Alabama by a point. It was the comeback. It was considered a minor miracle. They beat Kentucky on the last play of the game up at Commonwealth. These things are not the same. They may have had the best player in college football the last 25 years or longer, but that's not the same as having the best team. That's not the same as having the best team. How about the 2004 Auburn team? Now, they were really good. Ronnie Brown, Cadillac, Jason Campbell. Jason Campbell was okay, but the running backs were legit. The defense was really good. They only beat Virginia Tech 16-13 in the Sugar Bowl. This was not a dominant Auburn team. They had to pull away to win the SEC championship. They weren't great. They were fine. They didn't win the national championship, period. I don't know what I just said a second ago. I didn't even mean to say it. He's got 2019 Ohio State on here at number 14. What are you talking about? Is this a serious thing? The team that they lost to got their ass blown out by the team that won the national championship. Now, you got LSU, okay, number 2 overall. LSU, number 2 overall, period. Look, I don't know what this list is. It appears that the list at the top here, Miami 2001, has become like this epic, we can't talk about someone else being a better national championship team than that Miami team in 2001. Because of the way they beat Nebraska, that was part of it. Like that Miami team, that LSU team in 19, the Alabama team in 20, Georgia in 21, Georgia in 22, I think Clemson in 18. I think there are some teams that's differentiated themselves. For instance, and again, this is not me running down to Miami beat a lot of people pretty bad. This time, people didn't really score tons and tons of points. They put 59 on Syracuse, 65 on Washington. They escaped at Virginia Tech. To some degree, they escaped at Boston College. I don't know if people remember that or not, but I do. And but then what was such a big deal was the way they beat Nebraska. They beat Nebraska's brains in. They beat them by 23 points. That 22 Georgia team, they won the national championship by 60-plus points. What are we... Stuart, bro, you've got to be better than this. There's no excuse for some of this stuff. Now, with that said, these teams, I think basically what he said was, let me put all of the undefeated national champions, the 15-0s, as high on the list as possible. That Michigan team from 2023, that was not a great team. They won the national championship, but, they weren't, I don't see them beating the Florida team in 2008, okay, or any of these Alabama teams. The Alabama team in 15 was their worst national champion. He has them at number 18. For me, the 2012 Alabama team, they were better than the 16 Alabama team, and even the 2009 team. I think they were not as good as the 2020 Alabama team. But again, if I'm having a top 10, in the top 10 for sure, the 2 Georgia National Championships, 18 Clemson, Miami in 01, LSU in 19, Texas in 05. And then from that point forward, it becomes a little trickier. it's hard because I feel like, first of all, not having Georgia on this list twice is absolutely stupid. It undercuts your entire premise of this list. It's dumb. People say, oh, well, you're just a big Georgia honk. No, but I will honk this magazine. Make sure you're checking out our 2025 preview. You can pick up the link down below and pick up the magazine link down below, and I have a QR code. No, I'm living in reality. I was at those games. I watched those teams. I saw 2004 Auburn live. I saw 2020 Alabama live. I saw 2004 Auburn live, 2011 and 2010 Auburn live, 2019 Auburn live. I saw Georgia, all those games that they played in 21 and 22. I've seen a lot of these teams in person, on the field, whatever it is. I watched them. I saw Clemson, both those Clemson teams. But the truth of the matter is that the 08 Florida team, the 06 Florida team, the 06 Florida team was good. They weren't great. They backed into that national championship. That team is not better than the 2021 Georgia team. And so then it makes you look at everything on this list and be like, man, this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. That's the problem. We got way too many people making lists that just, like, are we not thinking about things? And by the way, don't do lists that include 25 things. Way too much drama, okay? Just stick with the top. I mean, if I'm going top 10, and again, this is off the top of my head, I would almost consider having the SC team from 05 in there as well. But Miami in 01, LSU 2019, I think 05 Texas, 2020, so the 3-year run specifically, but I would say this 5-year run of Clemson 18, 19 LSU. So I guess what I don't understand about having Ohio State, 19 Ohio State, bro, you got them at number 14. And you don't have Clemson 19 in front of them? Or what sense does that make? They beat them, literally. That makes no sense to me. That Clemson team in 19 was undefeated when they got their ass polished by LSU. How can you have them? They legitimately straight up beat them. That makes no sense at all. Like, so this is just dumb. And that's what I get so frustrated about is, the media is not all bad. It isn't. There's a lot of good people in the media. And I'm not specifically talking about Stewart here. But we got some real morons. We don't think real clearly. It seems like someone's editor said, hey, I need this quickly. We got to get a graphic out. Hey, throw this together. You cannot be intellectually honest about this and have a team. Maybe it's a typo. It doesn't look like it. Maybe it's a typo. You cannot have a team in 2019 Ohio State that lost to Clemson, who then got blown out by LSU. You skip the Clemson team on this thing completely, and you say, well, that Ohio State team. No, dude. No, it don't work like that. You either do it or you don't. Now, if you don't do it, I'm cool with that too, like the SC team and the 05 SC team. You want to talk about Georgia in 12? I mean, all right. But, no, I wouldn't include them. I mean, to some degree, that should be, how good was the team? And the Miami 01 team has gotten a little bit out of control with how good they were because of how good they were as pros. We don't know how good, like, for instance, the 23 Michigan team is going to be. All right? We just, we can't know that. But we can't know that in 2025. But, we know how good those Miami players were, and they were very, very good. Is Jordan Davis going to be a Hall of Famer? I don't know. Is Brock Bowers? I mean, probably. So we're not there yet with all these younger teams. And, like, as good as Trevor Lawrence was in college, he's not been as good in the NFL. And I don't think that takes away with how good he was in 18 for Clemson. But it would be like, I mean, you may as well put Clemson 2019 at number 14, and I would have a real problem with that too. So some of this stuff, you can't say that 2022 Georgia, which I've not talked about hardly at all with the exception of them blowing out TCU and surviving Ohio State. By the same logic, you could or should, I would not, but you could say, well, the 22 Ohio State team, I mean, those guys were really good, but they did lose the last 2 games that they played. So it's so disingenuous, some of this stuff. I mean, if I'm thinking about I'm going to stay away from the national scene here and go more specifically in this league, which is the national scene this century. For me, the LSU 19 or the Alabama 20 team, one of those two is the best that this conference has had. The offenses were beyond belief. The defenses were good. They were not 21 Georgia level defense, which was epic. And I think that 21 Georgia offense was pretty good. It wasn't the 22 Georgia offense, but the 22 Georgia offense, the defense was slightly worse. I mean, I think you can make the case that 22 Georgia was the best that there ever was. I don't know who wins the game between 22 Georgia and 21 Georgia. I think that's a good question. I think it's a really good question. But there's not a lot of teams that you can play that ball game with. You can play that with USC a little bit, about 2004 and 2003 and even 2005 SC. You can play that with some of the Alabama teams like 09, 12, and 11. They would all win the games against 15, 17. Okay? The question is, would they beat the 20 Alabama team? I don't think they could stop them. But I know, and then that's the other part of this. The sport is 25 years later. This is a little bit, not completely, this is a little bit like comparing the Miami 21 team to the Georgia team that won the SEC in 1976. It's a different sport. It's a different sport now than it was in 2001. It just is. I mean, Cam played 9 years after Miami, the number 1 team on this list, and I'm not necessarily fighting that. Cam played 9 years. There were no Cam Newtons playing football back then. And at the turn of the century, it just was not commonplace, didn't happen. And now you've got Cam, Johnny Manziel, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun, Joe Burrow, to be honest with you, Stetson Bennett. Those guys were very rare. It was the quarterback mattered, but they were pocket guys. Peyton Manning. Think about who the great quarterbacks were in the 90s, and they were pocket people, whether they were talking about Danny Werfel or, etc. So that's, the quarterback of today and how the sport has changed is as a result of the quarterback position changing fundamentally. That really kicked off with Cam for me. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody sort of in 2005, like Pat White maybe. So Pat White at West Virginia, maybe you start there kind of in that universe. But when Rich Rod and all that, when that sort of changed the sport, the running quarterback going back to Fran Tarkington and Archie Manning, that it came back. That's what's so different about the sport now versus Ken Dorsey. Okay, or I can't believe I didn't say Vince Young because he's staring me right in the face here. So Vince Young was the start of, but Cam was different than that too. I mean, so that's what's different now than back then. And I think that when you think about what has changed with football, Georgia 2021 would smoke 2004 Auburn. They wouldn't be able to score. I mean, they barely scored on that 2004 Georgia team. I think it was, 24-6? Something like that. I'll look it up real quick. I was at that game too. I mean, that was a really good Auburn team. They were good, but they shouldn't have played for the national championship probably. I mean, for me, yeah, they beat Georgia 24-6. Again, a really good Auburn team. They escaped LSU, no judgments, but only beating a Virginia Tech team that was a good Virginia Tech team, not a great Virginia Tech team, 10-2. 10-3, whatever they were. A Virginia Tech team that got kind of solidly beaten by SC and then lost to NC State. I think that was with Phillip Rivers. This is a good Virginia Tech team, and they played Auburn pretty hard. But, they played Miami pretty well that year, but that wasn't the same Miami over time. These things kind of aren't all the same thing. But I do think it is just completely reckless to not have this team right here, this national championship team here, one of the most watched games in college football history because of the teams playing in it, because of how good the teams were. You want to talk about good teams? I mean, several of those people on there have won Super Bowls. Okay? So you're talking about Ringo and not just been ancillary players in the Super Bowl. Jordan Davis, and Kobe Dean with anybody with the Eagles. I'm not even going to go through the list. But, I mean, Jalen Walker wasn't even a starter on that Georgia team. It's just not it's just not the same. To some degree, it's not the same sport. So there's that. There goes my light. And so that's my cue to wrap it up. But you had Trayvon Walker, you had Jalen Carter. I said Jalen. I mixed Jalen and Trayvon's name there. That's on me because I'm so disappointed by this stupidity. But I will say this: when we make lists, there can't be these dumb outliers that we got rolling around. It's not good enough. Do better.